Are you in the market for a new multi-platform gaming controller? Is that a yes, I'm hearing, my son? Well then, you absolutely got to consider the Gamesir Cyclone 2, because it's a smashing bit of kit, this is. So I got one of these myself, and I thought I'd do a cheeky little review for ya. Actually, I was sent it, same difference, innit? What I've also done is a bit of extra research, so this video condenses my review, the vital info, and all the internet gossip I could find into a smaller palatable package. So use this video as a buyer's guide, and if you're seriously interested in one of these, then watch this video first. First, let's do a quick unboxing. So opening the box here, you're going to find yourself 2 white condoms protecting your joysticks. Make sure you remove those, yeah? Because nobody likes them on. And then we're greeted by the controller itself. First impressions, it's got a really high quality feel to it. Definitely not your cheap bargain basement sort of gear. Joysticks are very smooth. Then as you can see, the rear of the controller is pretty minimal, except for 2 buttons either side on the bottom there. I suppose that's like your macro buttons or something. Then up top, you got your standard bumpers in gold and triggers in a transparent. Talking about transparent, notice the white plastic is actually a little bit transparent itself. I suppose you'd call that translucent, wouldn't you? Anyway, is transparent plastic actually making a comeback now in game hardware? Have a little vote in the comments if you think it should make a comeback. Right, I better stop saying trans now, in case my account gets flagged. Also, notice the 4 little pins on the back there, and that's for charging, which I'll show you in a jiffy. What else you're going to get in the box is this little metal charging stand here, look. A 2.4 gigahertz adapter for the lag-free gaming, and that actually plugs right in there. Then you got a charging lead, which is pretty thick, you know. Again, it don't feel cheap, and it measures about 1 meter. For the Yanks, that's about 3.5 feet. Now get a life and learn the metric system, you absolute mongs. Then you got yourself a pouch with some added extra, some instructions there with some Chinese writing on it, so make sure you brush up on your Chinese Mandarin, fellas. And you got some stickers there if you're a proper Gamesir fanboy, and that is what comes in the box. Let's move on to the key spec, shall we? Now, the star feature of this here game controller is the fact it's got TMR analog sensors. TMR stands for tunneling magneto-resistance technology, and it offers greater sensitivity and accuracy compared to standard off-the-shelf potentiometer analog sticks. But the main benefit is you don't get any stick drift over time. You know that fucking annoying thing where the joysticks don't return to its natural position? This controller won't do that. TMR sticks are even slightly superior to all effect sticks, as they're slightly more sensitive and more durable. The next thing's the polling rate. It's rated at a cheeky 1000 Hz, which is the standard for pro gamers, by the way. Polling rate is the number of times a second a sensor updates its location, basically. So a 1000 Hz polling rate means that it's talking to the computer 1000 times a second. Bit of a chatterbox, really, innit? The question is, do you need it? And I'll answer that later in the video, because the answer might actually surprise you. A bit like this photo of me getting out of bed this morning. Told you it'd surprise you. Anywho, let's move on to the triggers, shall we? So for the triggers, you got a selection between all effect mode and micro switch mode. So if you want to play FPS games, whack it in micro switch mode and it will reduce the travel of the trigger. Some people call it a hair trigger mode. The main benefit is you can shoot geezers in the face more quickly. Result. To change between all effect and micro switch mode, you just flick that little toggle there, like you're playing with your girlfriends. Some other features you might want to know. You've got HD rumble motors, which are customizable using some predefined commands. Oh, that's good. You can have a bit too much fun if you put that down your pants. It's got micro switch ABXY buttons, a tactile switch D-pad, 2 back buttons, and a 3.5mm headphone jack. I swear they're basically getting rid of those on most controllers. Why not whack it on if you can, eh? As for the battery, it's rated at 860 milliamps per hour, but no sod knows how long it will actually last. But if you subscribe, you can find that out when I do a long-term test of this controller. That is, if this video actually does well. Then you got a 0 dead zone mode, which you can turn on and off. And if I'm honest, I still ain't got another bubba what that actually means. I'm just a bit of a casual, lads. Casual and proud, me. Oh yeah, and let's talk about this stand. What can I say about this stand, eh? Well, it's made from aluminium, and you can put your controller on it, and it will keep it nice and charged. Yeah, it's pretty nifty. It's got a USB port in it as well. You can put your 2.4 gigahertz receiver in that hole there. Pretty handy. And, yeah. Der Stand ist gut. Muy bueno, mucho gusto. Shall we talk about something a little bit more interesting, like the colour choices? Now, I'm a tad pissed off about this. I got a little story to tell you, lads. So basically, Gamesir asked me, what colour do you want if we send this to you? And I said, black, because let me take you back to this photograph. Anyway, what can't speak can't lie. Check the email, lads. Now, a couple weeks later, I don't know if this got lost in translation, pals. I know this came from China and all that, but we're communicating in English here, and where I'm from, a black controller means a black controller. Shall we look up what black means in a few different languages, just so we're clear about this?
Schwarz. Noir. Noir. 黑色的
Is it there?
黑色的
Is it there? Fuck off. I ain't saying that on YouTube. No way, Pedro. Anyway, what do they go and do? They go and send me this piece of white trash. Do I look like I live in a trailer park, mate? Do I look like Rabbit from 8 Mile to You? No, I don't, son. I'm far too handsome. So why do you ask I'm not a fan of the phantom white colour, lads? Well, I had a long think about it, and the major thing is this. I think it's that golden D-pad. I'm not a fan. Not Kushti. It looks like one of those toys that you'd get out of a box of Frosties, don't it? The black, on the other hand, looks way better in my opinion. The D-pad don't look tacky for a start, and the RGB stands out better in daylight. Way cooler. Another reason I prefer the black is the thumbsticks. Can you see on the white version, they're colour matched in like a grey-white shade? So let's say you're stuffing down a bag of cheesy Doritos while smashing some jam tart in cod. Well, that means your pristine white thumbsticks are gonna get all yellow and cheesy. No me gusta, senor. So yeah, if you're gonna get this controller, lads, don't be a dickhead and get it in the black version. Using my affiliate links, of course, you absolute mong. However, I will say something in the white version's defense. Check out what it looks like at night. Now I see why it's called the Phantom White. Looks like there's a bleeding latent spirit having a little camp out inside the controller. Might add a little bit of ambience, shall we say, when you're playing that horror game that made PewDiePie famous. What's that called again? Scratching my head here. I get a spot of amnesia from time to time. Forgive me, lads. So yeah, if you like gaming at night, the Phantom White is actually pretty cushy. Shall we move on to the pricey then? Because price is king, as they say in France. And I think this thing is fairly priced actually. It will set you back between 40 and 60 quid, depending on where you get it from and if you buy the stand or not. Yes, I would say that is a fair price for a controller that's so feature packed. And with the 10 bob YouTube pays me for ads each year, using a bit of maths, I can work out it will take me, bit of trigonometry, sine plus cos plus tan, 5 years to buy one of these here controllers. Get in, my son. Let's talk a spot of gossip, shall we? Because everywhere I've looked on the internet seems to have positive reviews about this, so no surprises there then. And even when you look on Reddit, the boys there seem to be loving this controller too. If you look on Amazon, it's already got 181 reviews, probably more now I'm making this video, and it's rated 4.5 out of 5. And it's only been out a month, so it's pretty fucking popular then. There are a few bad reviews though, and mostly from other non-English speaking countries. Lucky you, because you got a translator here for you, don't you? I'm a fucking boss when it comes to languages. Como bien dice el titulo 10 días me ha durado hasta que ha empezado a falar continuamente se pulsan. Basically, this French lad here is saying he's had it 10 days and it's already failed. Certain buttons are being continuously pressed. He says it's a shame because otherwise it's a great controller. Either he's had bad luck or it's down to low quality components. So basically, he's sending this controller straight back to the supermarché. This lad from Japan, now I could easily say all that, but I don't want you to get all jealous that I can speak Japanese. So I'll just translate it for you. Basically, he says he's connected it directly via USB, right? And as a result, his house's electricity went out, so it's not even worth putting on a star. Well, nobody asked you to put on a star, mate. This ain't a fucking Christmas tree. And even if it were a Christmas tree, you couldn't turn the lights on anyway, could ya? Because it seems like this game controller's giving you a power cut, my son. Shame. The conclusion to all this, mis amigos, is that there's always going to be a few shitty reviews out there, no matter what it is you buy. I'm willing to bet that even gold itself would get a bad review on the internet if you look for it. Let me prove it to ya. See? I told ya. So what else have I got to say? Like, you know, my own personal feelings like. All I'm gonna say is, strap in lads, because this is the part of the review where things can get a little bit personal, you know? I don't mean to be negative or nothing, but if you want me to review something, then I'll let you know if something's to my personal taste or not. So now I've used this for 15 to 20 hours or so, I can give you my personal feelings about it. First things first, shall we talk about that 1000 Hz polling rate? If I'm honest, if you're a casual gamer like me, and you game at 30 FPS or 60 FPS, then this really ain't an issue. Even a 125 or 250 Hz polling rate is going to be good enough at low frame rates. But if you're a high FPS, high refresh rate gamer, like if your monitor is 240 Hz or above, and you've got a beast of a GPU, then your input equipment, like your mouse or controller, absolutely must be refreshing at high speed. Really, it should be at least double your monitor's refresh rate, otherwise you can get a little bit of stuttering in it. So yeah, the 1000 Hz polling rate, it's essential for some people, but a lot of people probably won't even notice. Next thing, do I actually like the controls? You know, like the buttons, the joysticks, the triggers, etc. Well, firstly, the ABXY. I like that. It's got a bit of a spongy feel with a small tactile click at the end. Not too shabby. Now the D-pad, it's not to my personal taste. It's just got a little bit too much travel for me, and it's got a little click at the end, but it's a bit too spongy if I'm telling the truth. As for the joysticks, they're very smooth in action. But you know, maybe for me, I don't know, I think they're a little bit too smooth for my liking. I like my joysticks to have a slightly gritty feeling around the edges. And you know when you pull the joystick to the edge, right, and then you let go and it springs back? This one's really springy, this one. I like mine to be a little bit more relaxed. Like when you let go of this joystick, it's like someone stuck a chili pepper up its arse and it's just desperate to get back home. I know some faster gamers are actually going to like that, but I'm just an old school guy. I like it a little bit slower in my old age, shall we say. Then you got the thumb grips themselves. They're knurled and all that. They look the part, but I still feel like my thumbs are slipping off them a little bit. Maybe it's the specific rubber compound that they use. I like the joystick to feel like really rubbery, if you get what I mean. Like one of those Pirelli tyres. You know what I mean? Basically, I don't want that joystick to be leaving my fingers when things get slippy. I swear the materials they used to use on the old 360 and the previous Xbox controllers were less slippy than the current generation of controllers. It's something I've been saying for a while now. Don't know if it's right or wrong. Maybe I sweat more in my old age. Who knows? A second point about the thumb grips. I like the type of thumb grips, right, that have those little crosshair indents in them. I don't know why. It's like I can feel the joystick better. And I like my thumbsticks to have different designs for the left and the right. I don't like them feeling the same way. Does that make me a bit of a weirdo? Comment below. But I think it's because I'm a proper old school geezer and I grew up with Xbox and GameCube controllers, you see. I do like a little bit of asymmetry from time to time. You've heard that story about my girlfriend, ain't ya? Then we got the bumper buttons at the top. Now I'll just tell ya, I don't like these straight up. They're not to my taste. Too clicky clacky and hollow sounded. I like it to be spongy and dense, like a nice treacle sponge with extra custard. I mean, I thought they're meant to be called bumper buttons, like the bumper on a car. It's meant to absorb energy in that. But with these ones, there's no give to it whatsoever. The triggers are good. Yeah, the triggers are good. And they bottom out quite nicely. That little toggle thingamy-bob could be a little bit easier to switch though. And that air trigger mode I told you about earlier, I get why it's there and all that, but I can't get used to it in the games I play. It just don't feel right in Halo. I don't know why. Now these back triggers here, is there a way you can actually lock these? Because I keep clicking them by accident. On that Gamesir Tarantula Pro that I reviewed before, I swear there was a locking mechanism to lock that in place. I mean, it's not that bad because if you haven't assigned anything to those buttons, then if you do click it, it won't do nothing anyway. But I thought I'd just mention it. It got on my nerves a few times, that's all. Okay, well that's the rant over. But take into account, lads, I'm not an expert gamer. I just game on my lunch breaks and that. But I still got my views on what a perfect controller should be, you know? And in the next video, I'm going to be putting the Gamesir Tarantula Pro and this Gamesir Cyclone 2 head to head. Stay tuned, muchachos. Bosh.